It's full time. Manchester United 0, Crystal Palace 1. We lose our second game in a season at Old Trafford in the Premier League. Last season, we lost only one game at Old Trafford. It was against Brighton, and we almost won every game at that stadium. But we've gone ahead to find ourselves in a position of losing to the side of Crystal Palace. Having beaten them in the midweek by 3-0, today we couldn't even put just one goal past the goal line of Crystal Palace. Welcome to United Matters channel. How are you guys and where are you watching us from? Rokan David is my name. You can as well call me Aradi. In a somber mode to discuss what this loss was like at the club of Manchester United, and I know you guys have your thoughts. That's why I decided to go on live, because if I went on to do what we call a recorded video and upload it, I wouldn't go ahead to obviously share what your pain is after this game of football that we all anticipated that we're going to win, but we've gone ahead to lose it. So I'm going to give you my verdict on who I think was responsible for us to lose this game of football, and you're also going to give me your verdict on who you think was responsible for this disastrous loss of Manchester United at Old Trafford. You can't tell me that you are having a bench that has some good players and you don't obviously bring these players on to obviously kill off the game, especially after some of the players you put up on the bench on the starting 11 didn't perform. Eric Ten Hag and Marcus Rashford are really people that are yet to blame, or that are blamed for this loss. Most of you might obviously not come to agree with me, but these two are responsible for what we've gone ahead to obviously lose. In the first half, before even the 25th minute, when we conceded a set piece, right? Rashford had close to 5 runs in that box. He was selfish. He couldn't obviously make a very quick cutback. When he really ran through towards the byline, of putting in a very good cross across of goal, guess what happened? He just hit the ball wide. He's just too off. And here I come to agree with people who obviously say that Garnacho should start ahead of Marcus Rashford. That is it. Because Rashford needs a wake-up call. He needs a wake-up call at Manchester United. If you're having Garnacho in the opening minutes with those chances that we get that fell through to him, obviously you kill it off. You know that he'll obviously go in for a chop out, and then he goes in for a color, or he finds a well-positioned player, or put in a cutback that is really great, obviously meet Rasmus Højlund and very many more. That is it. In this entire game, Rashford has done only one positive. You remember that pass that he really put in through that saw Rasmus Højlund face the goalkeeper, and that ball was swept off the line by, I think, Mitchell. You get? That is the only thing he did. But for the entire 70 plus minutes he spent on the field of play, he was doing nothing. He was doing nothing, and I don't remember him doing anything positive apart from the one I'm going to talk about. And if we continue playing with players like Rashford on the field of play like this, and not benching them to obviously come in through and obviously give us what we need to get, we are obviously going to find ourselves in a position of losing out on very many games, because the first goal is very important. This is a statement that has been lived for years, and some people are really calling it repetitive and being the usual person when talking about it. But we need to talk about this because it's what wins the games. Even if you keep a clean sheet and you don't obviously score goals, you're not going to walk away with the 3 points. The difference between the United that beat Crystal Palace in the midweek and the Crystal Palace that is going to have to beat us today is Alejandro Garnacho. That is the difference. That is the difference. It's Alejandro Garnacho. Because look at how we really leveled or improved the pace, the intensity of our attack when Garnacho came on through. The way he drives that ball to the opponent is obviously insane, and just caused a lot of trouble to the opponents. And he saw to it that when he obviously came in through, we got more openings. And one thing I hate about Rashford is that he gets the ball and he waits for players to come past him. You know, he's slow, not in running, like in decision making, because in such a scenario, because you know that you cannot go past 3 players or 2 players, you just have to find a quick pass and run into space and create space for a return pass from your fellow player. Guess what Rashford is doing? He gets that ball, he holds it, he waits for players to come close to him, and he wants to go past him. Mr. Rashford, we all know that you don't have a good skill set. The only difference you're having is your pace. That is it. And when you look at how things are really happening at Man United, you ask yourself, why is Rashford playing all those minutes on the field of play? He should be penalized by being benched. He doesn't deserve to start any other game of Manchester United, because having been rested for 90 minutes in the game of Crystal Palace in the midweek, you anticipated him to come up with a very huge output altogether, because it doesn't hurt, it doesn't pain when you reach into that box and take your time and really find out a very right pass for the team. But his selfishness has continued to cost us again and again and again and again and again. And this is when I call in for Garnacho to obviously take center stage. Garnacho should take center stage because Rashford is not doing the job. When Garnacho started the season off badly in the game of Wolverhampton Wanderers and Spurs, and he couldn't obviously create chances because of his selfishness, the manager benched him and obviously saw him come off the bench most of the times. But right now, all we need as Manchester United is Erik ten Hag to take what they're supposed to do. Take Rashford off. Take him off. Bring on Garnacho. Because did we miss Marcus Rashford when Garnacho came on through? No, we are just excited because the lad was obviously putting in more efforts that were really relentless. Ten Hag takes off. He first took off who? To bring on Garnacho. He brought on Garnacho and is it Anton Martial? He took off Facundo Pellistri and which other player was taken off in the midfield? Let me check the substitutes here, because I need to know exactly whom he took off, because he took off Facundo Pellistri and I think Mason Mount, right? He took off Facundo Pellistri and Mason Mount. Then he brought on Anton Martial and kept Rashford onto the right. And we all know that Rashford can only get you an output when he's playing off the left. Why put him off the left on the right? Because the moment you put him on the right, it's a gone game. It's a gone dead game. Mr. Erik ten Hag, that was a gone dead game. That's why he took off Rashford, because he couldn't operate further than he could on the left. Because if I told he was failed on the left, then why keep him on the right? That was really uncalled for Erik ten Hag, and he needs to obviously accept that Rashford is not untouchable. I know he has earned himself what we call immunity at Manchester United for the season he had, but the records he held or he got last season are not obviously going to help us this season. That is it. They're not obviously going to help us. All what is going to help us is him transferring or replicating what he did last season into this season. But if at all he can't, then he ceases to matter and obviously get ourselves to the levels of obviously getting us to levels where we deserve to be. And I really believe that it's obviously going to be one of those calls that Ten Hag needs to make on Marcus Rashford, because ever since the season started, all the games we've gone ahead to play, they are now 9. Rashford has been selfish. His selfishness has gone ahead to cost us very many games. And today, in the first 17 minutes of the game, he was really one of those players that was supposed to be really into the assist book of this team. But he couldn't, because he could run into a forest of legs. He couldn't release the ball easily, Why do you commit yourself into a forest of legs when you know your skill set's not all that great? Mr. Rashford, that's not you supposed to be doing that. It's Garnacho or Anton Martial who are supposed to be doing that, because they're having a very good skill set that can go past those players. But for your case, you can't go past those players. And you need to obviously understand what you should be doing. And that's why I've gone ahead to come up with a title that Rashford Ten Hag Disaster Class, United 0, Crystal Palace 1. The other reason as to why I blame Erik Ten Hag was, fine, we've gone ahead to start the first half, 45 minutes gone, United 1, Crystal Palace 0. What was not happening at Manchester United? It was the midfield. When we played Crystal Palace in the midweek, we had a double pivot, of Casemiro and Sofian Amrabat for some minutes, like I think 16-20 minutes. Guess what happens? We start off the second half and you keep Amrabat onto the left back. I would have thought that bring on John Evans or Harry Maguire in the central defense, get Lindelof as the left back of Manchester United, then get Sofian Amrabat and Casemiro to play in the double pivot, because we saw how that double pivot dominated that side of Crystal Palace in the midweek. You saw to it that Amrabat was being caused a lot of problems by Jordan Ayew because he was being played out of position. And why should we play a player out of position yet? We can try to mingle up on the situation. Like how? Get Dalot onto the left back, also play Scott McTominay as the right back, or play Lindelof as the right back and play Dalot as the left back, and see Evans or Harry Maguire team up with with Varfalvera in the central defense, and then have a double pivot of Casemiro and Sofian Amrabat that's going to see us not really pass through by that midfield. But do you saw how Eze got through us every time he obviously got that ball? It was easy work always for Eze. Easy work every time he got the ball. He could pass easily through that midfield like a hot knife through butter. That is Eze for you. Those are things that I really believe are really uncalled for at the club of Manchester United. And we, as the people that support Man United, we should obviously call out the manager for not obviously elevating his tactics, because this was something simple, and what was needed was all about to see the elevation of tactics altogether in a nick of time. But Ten Hag kept the same team on, and it affected us. Mason Mount, why did he have to play all those minutes? Because he had no end product to the game. Tell me something positive he did in the game. It's only the cross that Dalot put in through, and he headed it over the bar. That is it. But what else did Mount do in that game? What else did Mason Mount do in that game? Nothing. So it was better for us to go in for a double pivot of Casemiro and Sofian Amrabat, then Bruno Fernandes ahead of them. And for Bruno also, he deserved to be taken off the field of play today. He didn't deserve to play all those minutes because he lacks what we call composure when he's having the ball. He's petulant. Hollywood passes. He does things that really affect the team and don't show that we are obviously going to win. Yeah, in a moment like that, when you're goal down, you don't need to fidget that I'm going to put the ball into the 18 box area. No, spread the ball in the width. Use the width of the pitch. Spread that ball to Facundo Pellistri. Spread it to Garnacho. Knock it around with Bruno, with the likes of Casemiro, and so on and so forth. And this is where some people coming through and really hate me that I might not be a United fan when I really say that Odegaard is better than when I say that Odegaard is better than Bruno Fernandes. Yes, he is. The difference that won Arsenal the game today at Vitality Stadium when they're playing Bournemouth has been Martin Odegaard, involved in 3 goals. But how many times do you see Martin Odegaard do Hollywood passes? He doesn't. He only goes in for accurate passes, that are really intricate and line breaking. But for Bruno Fernandes, the only good pass I saw today into the final third of the pitch was when he released Facundo Pellistri towards the end of the first half, and Facundo Pellistri couldn't meet that ball. It was a very nice line breaking pass, but it couldn't obviously help us, and it costed us on the night. That is Bruno Fernandes for you. And he comes out and really brags that they are fighting for the team. If you're fighting for the team, there are certain things you don't do. Hold up the play. You see what Casemiro does? He holds up the play and doesn't go in for passes that are not really line breaking and accurate in the final third of the pitch. That's why I come in and blame Erik ten Hag that why wouldn't we get Sofian Amrabat in the midfield and see Casemiro play as a number 8 to pile more pressure, because Casemiro can offer more to the team in the number 8 position more than Mason Mount. Mount needed to be taken off. There are players that wouldn't have gone ahead to come back in the second half. Rashford, Mason Mount. Those two couldn't really return when we are playing this beautiful game of football today, because they really never put up the effort that showed that they wanted us to win. You know, they are just basic players. They are basic players. I've always gone hate to say this out loud. You know, Marcus Rashford is a basic player. He just gets the basics right. But he's not that player that will obviously talk about as being so much talented. Garnacho is a talented player. You like his skill set, you know, and he puts in a lot of shift when it's obviously being played in that position, you know. But talk of one player, Mason Mount. He's a basic player, and there is nothing in him that was supposed to come up and break that game. I tell you, if you get Donny van de Beek, play him in the number 10 role today, we win that game. Because all what we needed was the knowledge of Donny van de Beek. That's what we needed. That player that thinks of quick passing into the final third and doesn't have the grid to just see the ball get off himself. You know, these players should sometimes be benched by Erik ten Hag, because if you don't bench them, they're not going to understand what they're supposed to be doing. And we have players that can do better in the team, but Erik ten Hag is denying them a chance. You know, Eriksson comes on through, you see what he does. The composure he gets us on the field of play. But if it was not Donny van de Beek in the Bruno Fernandes role, I would have gone ahead to bring in Eriksson. Bruno shouldn't be playing 90 minutes, because what has he done in this game that keeps him on the field of play to really see him play 90 minutes? Nothing. That is the answer. Nothing. What did he do in this entire game? Nothing. So, why should you keep him on the field of play for a very, very long time that sees us face the wrath of a team like Crystal Palace? And we lost to Crystal Palace stupid like that because of the tactics of the manager and what he went ahead obviously want to prove to the people. This is nothing to prove, Mr. Ten Hag. All we need is goals in the back of the net, and we're having better players that obviously can do the needful. And it showed you exactly how United is when we are playing with Bruno Fernandes and Rashford, and when you're not playing without them. For Rasmus Højlund, he put in a shift that was really well called in for, and everything really went on as planned. So, I tell you, this is really hard for Manchester United, and we are losing very many games if Ten Hag doesn't get to the basics of knowing that some players shouldn't be playing for the club of Manchester United if at all they are having the first hour mark that is really ugly. Now, United had 19 shots. 19 shots, that's what we had. And we couldn't kill off these chances. 8 shots by Crystal Palace. Out of the 19 shots, only 4 shots were on target. It shows you what I've been telling you, that we lacked a person to obviously open up that central defense. Because Crystal Palace parked the bus. That's the fact. Crystal Palace parked the bus. Crystal Palace parked the bus on the day. They parked the bus. You know? And you needed someone to come in through and obviously break that bus. They had gone ahead to park. And that player was Facundo Pellistri. Martial came on through and showed that things were really performing very well. But we lacked another outlet on the wide right. And that would have seen Bruno Fernandes get off the field of play, because he doesn't have all what it takes to see to it that everything really comes to pass. So, to my own understanding, I really believe Ten Hag needs to learn from his mistakes. I know he's a good student from his mistakes, but this time round, it's beyond redemption. Now, let's talk about the possession. 78% ball possession by United and 22% ball possession by Crystal Palace. We all know that even if you possess that ball until Kingdom Come, when you don't have a goal, the possession doesn't matter. 734 passes completed by Manchester United. Crystal Palace had 219. We had times 3.5 the number of passes that Crystal Palace really made. 88% passing accuracy. Crystal Palace had 66% pass fighting accuracy. 10 fouls by Man United. 8 fouls by Crystal Palace. 3 yellow cards. 3 yellow cards to Man United. Casemiro, Amrabat, and who else? Then 4 Crystal Palace. It was Ward and Hughes. 0 red cards to both sides. Casemiro looked like he was just a foul out from getting a red card. 2 offsides by Manchester United and 0 offsides to Crystal Palace. 10 corners by Man United and 4 corners by Crystal Palace. Let's talk about the corners. When you look at how those corners came in through, it showed you that we are really, really fidgeting, and we never really concentrated, obviously, put the best out of those corners, because we brought all those corners and they are headed out by the team of Crystal Palace. I don't remember any corner that we won. What does that mean? It meant that we had to obviously try to craft out something like get a short corner that will see the team of United maybe do something that was really gotten on the training, not those direct corners. And some players showed up always, and Bruno couldn't start a short one. He could go in for a long ball. So this team lacks control. We are lacking leadership in certain aspects, because when a corner comes in through, all you have to do is simple. Find yourself in a situation that will keep you into safety. But we are all fidgeting. We are rushing. We had all the reason to take our time. It was 1 goal. And we obviously couldn't really put up to our best. So those are things I went ahead to see today. And I'm having Oyika Moses is telling me that, bro, we just won. I understand, but this shouldn't be the cause of the day, because we could be better. We could be doing better for the club of Manchester United. We look at the Premier League table. We are 9. We are, is it 12th? I think we are 12th with 9 points. So when are we going to close in on teams? You know, this was a game we're supposed to win, because we win this game of football. It takes us to 12 points and getting us back to the run. Now, you are going to hear the media go back to their negative talk about Man United and how we are having problems in the dressing room. But where are problems in the dressing room in that game? Marcus Rashford had the chances to obviously put us in the game. He didn't. You know, Bruno Fernandes, instead of obviously going in through to help us and obviously do the needful, he couldn't. This is why I really understand that we need to make an overhaul. A captain like Bruno Fernandes, who cannot control the game, shouldn't obviously come in through to obviously be there. That's why I would prefer an Odegaard in that midfield of Man United other than Bruno Fernandes. You get? So, we are playing Galatasaray in the midweek. I don't know what's going to happen. Then we are to play Brentford on Saturday before we head to the international break. So let's wait and see how that pans out, but it's really ugly on the day. But the good thing is that Anthony is back. Maybe we could get more and more from the right attacking side of the midfield, because his presence gives us balance onto that field of play. So guys, thank you very much for watching through. What else do I have to talk about? I wanted to obviously see this in the picture of Erik ten Hag and his poor substitutions, because he's the one making these players not do what he's supposed to tell them to do. Because if you're Rashford, they tell you to do ABCD and you don't do it, get off the field of play, because we're having another player on the field of play who can obviously take us to the dreamland. But you couldn't take us to the land of milk and honey, that is Rashford. Then why play more minutes? The latest would have gone ahead to spend only 15 minutes in the second half. That is 60 minutes. And get him off the field of play. But as it stands, it's really ugly for United on the day. We're going to have to lose another game. This is our 3rd loss. Is it 3rd or 4th? I think 4th loss in the Premier League. Arsenal, Tottenham Hotspur, Brighton, and Crystal Palace. Yet we're not supposed to be losing. We are not supposed to be losing such games. I don't blame Andre Onana for his foul. Sorry, for the goal we conceded. He couldn't do anything. Amrabat is to blame for that reckless tackle he does. You know, he never had any audacity to do it. Because the best way to defend is to make the player face his side. That's where Jordan he was really facing. But that free kick is brought in very well, and we don't really track up onto that. Again, another player gets a free shot at the edge of 18 box area. We need to be marking such areas better and better and better. Yet everyone is into the box. So it's really ugly for Man United. It was ugly on the day, and it's really annoying that we're gonna hate to really lose. And I think we get better, and this course should be really rectified by Eric Ten Hag. Thank you guys for watching through. I sign out for now.